You know, I'm reminded that today that our nation is plagued by loneliness. I don't know about you, but I missed part of my family that I didn't get to see this year. Some of them were ill and didn't want to be around, had come off illness and didn't want to be around people, and some were just buttoned down. We're trying to get over this thing. But you know, there was a time in my life that I felt totally alone. Totally alone. 4 little words, I love someone else, my world was shattered. Felt as if it was just like Joseph. That's kind of how I felt. I've been betrayed by the one person in the world that I trusted the most and thrown into the cistern. And up above me, I could feel the pandemic just swirling all around. It didn't matter that I was surrounded by my children. It didn't matter that I was surrounded by my family, my friends. I just felt alone and utterly abandoned, for sure. An example of this is found in the Bible in the earliest story of man, the creation story. And after God had created everything, he created man. And after a while, he discovered, I think it was kind of intentional myself, I don't think he discovered anything, but he said, "It is not good that man be alone." And that's when all trouble broke loose on earth. Yes, I will pay for that when I get home. But then in Ecclesiastes, God makes a case that it's meaningless to be alone, to fall and to not have someone to help you up. I'm even reminded of the Lone Ranger. He even had Tonto. So what am I? What have I become? And what will I become? Not just on the free choices and decisions that I make and the goals I set for myself, but they also depend on who I run with. Because the people that surround me often define me, and they often lead me right or wrong. Surely you've experienced that in your life. In short, I think we need community. We need the advantages of community. Sometimes our goals and choices are headed in a given direction. But the people we run with can steer us away from that direction. That's where it becomes problematic to choose your friends wisely and to stick with those that are walking with God. The worst thing in the world that you can see in today's world is you see people come into a knowledge of God and they're torn. They're torn. They have old friends. They have new friends. Which do I go to? I like these new friends. They're supportive, man. They're going to lift me up. They have forgiven me. They have included me. But yet I have this tug of war over here that how can you just abandon them? And I hope that we as a church can be that so dominant, so persuasive in the way that we walk, in the way that we talk, in the way we carry ourselves, in the way we forgive, in the way we love, in the way that we give out hope to the world, that they can see there's such a difference between the dark side and the side of glory over here. And that's what we owe anybody that comes through that door. I don't know. You know, good things can happen when our goals and our choices and the people we choose are all running in the same direction. We're all going together. You know, God continues to place people in my life that would lift me up. I regress back into my college years now. You know, I was a believer. I mean, I was a strong believer. I was really trying to live what God wanted me to do. I remember one time we had a big revival. And I brought the Dirty Dozen with me. And they received blessings, you know. But then when I got into college, you know, in the college year, all of a sudden you have what? Freedom. No parents. We even have a little money in our checkbook. Oh, yeah. It didn't last long, but we had it. But, you know, when we start having that freedom for the first time, you know, and we get all these new friends around us, and we're making so many good friends and stuff, and yet so many of them think there's a wild side to them, and then we got to go relive that wild side a little bit, and you're tended to go with them, aren't we? But then there's also the good side over here, and you're finding a few of them are still holding forward to the truth over here. And my guy's name was Chuck Burgess. You know, I got down on my sophomore year where I had some things happen in my life that was just real disturbing. And it's usually because of the she, you know, but the things were happening. And I looked at Chuck and I saw something that was refreshing out of everybody. And I found out that he's going to the Baptist Student Union. Christian group off campus, and I started quizzing him about him. And I kept asking him questions. I kept hoping that he was going to ask me to go with him. And so I asked him, "Hey, can I go with you?" You know, I know what I need. I've experienced it. I desire it. I can't live without it. And I started going to the Baptist Student Union, and it saved my life. In fact, it's that next semester at the retreat center, God totally broke through to me in a way that was undeniable. And it changed my life forever. You know? Those are the paths that we need to seek out. Those are the opportunities we need to be offering to other people. You know, in the Old Testament, God promised that He would be with us, just like He was with Moses. You know, here Moses, as you remember the story, I mean, he had to run. The prince of Egypt had to run out of Egypt because he had killed Hagar. I mean, one of the people that we lift up to the highest was a murderer. But God got him out there in that wilderness, and He gave him another family, and He forgave him. Because I have something for you to do. And so He brought him back in after 40 years. And Moses is going, hey, not me. I'm not. I can't even speak. And stuff like that. And there's a few little miracles that God had to perform for Moses along the way to make sure that he understood this is where you need to be going. And so he went back to Egypt, and the first people he came across was who? He had to deal with the Hebrew leadership. I mean, even in captivity, they had a leadership there, and he had to deal with them. And he had to tell them, this is what God's telling me to do. And next on the list was Pharaoh. I mean, the most powerful person in the world at that time. Moses was supposed to go back into the palace and tell him to let my people go. And Pharaoh didn't take too kindly to that. So then Moses had to announce the plagues. Man, if you don't think somebody caught heck over that, Trump doesn't know anything about what's happening when he compares himself to what Moses was going through, let me tell you. But he was faithful. He was faithful. And then, we come out of the Old Testament, we can go to the New Testament. And God promised us that He will be with us and He will help us. Okay? It's almost like on an individual basis here. He was dealing with individuals in the Old Testament, but you don't see too many times where you had people, him coming in, I love you, I'm going to guide you, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So God said something like this, anyone who will believe in me will do greater things than I. Whoa! Now that's a promise. Woo-hoo! And you know where that's found? We just visited not too long ago. It's found in John 14. John 14. And then he says something like this, I can do all things in him who strengthens me. That is Paul saying what he's discovered that God can do with him. Man, that's a promise. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. If you ever feel down and alone, by gosh, you always have somebody to go through. You don't have to worry about whether you're in a cistern or whether you're on top of the mountain. You can always go to God, and He will strengthen you. And then he comes to my favorite that I shared with you last week, 2 weeks ago. If you love me, keep my commandments. And whoever has my commandments and keeps them, he it is one that loves me. And the one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too shall love him and show myself to them. That's how Jesus comes real to us. That's what it's all about. God promises to be present to us because He becomes real to us. You know how He does that today a lot of times? Through the church, through community, through the church. Yeah. I think that's the church, what it should offer. It should offer an affirmation, a lifting up. You and I might even become open to God's embrace. But we should be lifting up everybody. Everybody in God's church. Many think that the church is just a series of do's and don'ts. That's what you first get when you first come into it. When I go into prison, there's so many people that are just newbie Christians, and they're just learning all the do's and the don'ts. I can't do this, I can do that. Oh yeah, oh let me do that. Oh yeah, okay, and they're all confused sometimes about what the church is all about. You see? They just get confused about these things. But surprise, once they experience God's grace, they also find His love. And they find out that the more mature Christians aren't following God because of the do's and don'ts. They're doing it because they know that God loves them. It's just like I wanted my earthly father to be proud of me. And I did what it took to make him proud of me. I learned his ways. I walked in the truth as he taught me. And I desired his love. And when you get to the point where you can have that same relationship with God, then maybe, no, I know it. He'll be able to say to you, well done, my good and faithful servant. And that's what I aspire to be, a good and faithful servant. And that doesn't mean I don't stumble, but that's what I aspire to. I'll fall flat on my face sometimes, but I get up and I know where my goal is, and that's what I'm going for. And I hope that's what you're going for also. You know, God promises to be real in our lives. You know how that comes about? Mainly through the church. Because when we can come together, and we can bond together, and we can lift each other up together, boy, that is something. And that's what we should aspire to as a church. Because the church offers within it the affirming, the lifting up, that we might be, that each of us might be open to God's embrace. And that's what we're here for. To become closer with God. To be able to walk with Him and to talk with Him and know that He's hearing us. And knowing that if we stumble, He'll pick us up. And that's when your walk becomes real sweet. That's sweet. Yeah. I believe in the Lord of hope. And I'm going to list some verses here, and I'm going to let you look them up. But first of all, we start out with what? What's the first thing we always learn in Sunday school? The first verse. For God so loved the world. John 3:16. God so loved the world. And that includes me and you. We're part of that world. Amen. You know? And then he goes on in John 10:10. You know, I just love John. I'm telling you, if you want to learn a lot about love and how God's relationship with you, go study the book of John. Because in 10:10 he says, I came that you might have what? Life. But have it how much? Abundantly. Abundantly. Have life. Yeah, and then you go into Ephesians 2:8 and 9 and find out that, you know, it's by faith. It's by faith that we can walk. And then you go into Philippians 4:4-7. And it says, rejoice. I have the peace that goes beyond all understanding. Rejoice. And man, if you don't have that peace, you need to start reading some of these words and go into Philippians and look into chapter 4 and find out that he said, rejoice. Rejoice. And then you have others like James 4:7. And you can just keep on naming them. And you start looking for these things, and all of a sudden your heart starts to soar and your spirit is up there with God, and you can walk knowing that He's right there beside you. I don't know. But I do know this. The key is in the area of obedience. I spoke about that 2 weeks ago. And when it happens in your life, guess what? You become alive. Alive. And we're activated to take action. Yeah. And we do this by stepping out and by trusting God that He's within us and by our side. In short, we get into the game. We get into the game. We start to see His words in action, and that spurs you on to more things. I don't know about you, if you've ever been on a mission trip and you go out somewhere like, look, Connie and I did it one time. We went down to Guatemala. We went down there to drill water wells. We went into a community when down there they just don't have good water. I mean, everybody has their own water well, but it's about 40 feet deep, and and you look over there and you see the pigeons and landing on the rim of the well, and with the bucket that goes down, and guess which side the tail end of the pigeon's pointing into? And then you have all the sewer stuff that you go out there, you're driving down the road, and you see guys just waking up in the morning, go hiding behind the tree to relieve themselves in the morning. And the outhouses there's only maybe one for a community block, and they're right there by the water well, and you can just imagine all that stuff going down and seeping in. And you go and eat. We went and ate with the family, and it's dirt floors, and they had planks there, and they had curved out where it was open at times. You can imagine when the wind and the rain starts coming, it just goes through the house, and the mud's in the house, and there you are with the chickens and the pigs running around and the pigeons over there with their tails in the well, and you're saying, man, I'm glad I live in the United States of America. I don't care what all the problems are. I'm proud to be an American. Okay? But we drilled a water well for a school, and we put it on school property so that all the people could come to it. And we drilled it down deep, and we put in the tubing and the cement around it, so we drilled through the bad water and got on down to about 100 feet to where the good water is, and they had a good well. And then you witness people that come from other little communities around, and they come up there, and they say they may have 6 or 8. This was a small little old Toyota truck. And it, small, one of the little ones, and you'd have the driver and his partner in there, and then you'd have 6 or 7 people standing up, holding on to each other, hoping they can hold each other from falling out. And they come dressed in their finest, and they came up to the leader of our group to ask him, could you come to our community and drill a well, because last year we lost half of our children under the age of 2 because of diseases. We have an abundance in this nation, and we should be sharing it. But the one thing we need to be sharing with them and with each other is the love and the grace that God gives us. When we start to begin our faith journey, He'll call you into a faith journey if you'll just let Him. It'll be a journey. And after we've walked on that journey a bit, if we look back, after you've been walking with God a while, and you're doing all these things that you're trying to do for Him, and you just need to pause every once in a while and look back over the landscape that you came across and start seeing what you sowed. And then you know that God's active in your life, and you're on the right path. And that's where we as a church need to be. But we can't do it alone. It takes each one of us. He sends His Holy Spirit, and together we become the family of God. You know what that act of stepping out in faith is called? I should say, do you know what that act of stepping out in trust is called? Faith. There you go. That's right. And when you do that, you can share. And you'll know that you're walking with God.